Hamlet sees dead people and stabs his ex-girlfriend's dad through a curtain.
Dead for a ducat!
On accident. Why? Hey there. So before we get started, I just want to put in a quick disclaimer. I'm going to be using the word mad and madness a lot in this video. During Shakespeare's time, there was, unsurprisingly, not very much known about mental health or mental illnesses. I will be using that word to the point where we can have a little counter at the end, but we obviously know that there are other words that could be used to describe the mental health and well-being of the characters in this play. Okay, so let's dive in. So the first question that we should be asking ourselves isn't looking at Hamlet's words or actions. The first question we should ask is the ghost real? If the ghost is not real, there's nothing more to be said. Hamlet's mad.
Mark me. I will.
However, if the ghost is real, then we've got quite a pickle, actually. It's like, that's a mess, right? Your father came back from the dead to tell you that his brother killed him and married his wife, and, like, let's not forget, took Hamlet's right to the throne, kind of. They keep calling him prince, but, like, people have become kings much younger than Hamlet. So I guess my biggest argument for the ghost being real is our investment as an audience in the play. If we did not believe that the ghost is real and it was not a cold hard truth of the play, then why would I watch? Why would I spend 4 hours watching? It's not always 4 hours, we cut it down, but it's a lot of text. Why would I sit and watch somebody talk through a lot of thoughts and feelings about something that isn't real? So for me, the ghost has to be real, because if the ghost is not real, then we have no sympathy for Hamlet, and we might as well just go walk out of the theater and go to the bar. Which makes the scene with Gertrude so poignant, because she doesn't see him. And that's a question of why. Why doesn't she see the ghost? And of course, she says, "Are you mad?" There's a lot of, you'll notice as you go through the play, people are constantly saying he's mad, this is why he's mad, he is mad, like, it's over and over and over again. If the ghost is real, then we actually care about our protagonist. We actually have sympathy for the main character of this play. And I know that a device in a play is not the best way to argue the truth of the ghost being real, but I think this is a moment of magic in theater where we have to accept these truths.
I am thy father's spirit.
We have to accept these kind of bends in logic. So, okay, so we have decided that the ghost is real. Okay, we can move on. If you believe that the ghost is not real, you can stop the video right here and you're done. Like, there's nothing more to be said, because if the ghost is not real, there's no going back for Hamlet. There's nothing that he does can be justified. Sorry. Okay, so we've identified that the ghost is real. The next thing I want to look at is, what is Hamlet saying? There are two points in the play that really stood out to me. The first is in Act 1, Scene 5, where him and Horatio are obviously just so close, and the scenes that they have together are so beautiful, which makes the end just so heartbreaking. But he tells Horatio in the beginning of the play, "As I perchance hereafter shall think meet to put an antic disposition on." So he literally tells Horatio that he's going to be putting on this antic disposition. And then we kind of follow him right after with his mad scene with Polonius. The next moment in the play, not the next moment, but the next poignant moment to me is in Act 3, Scene 4, that same scene with Gertrude, where the ghost appears, he sees it, she doesn't see it, and there's like, oh, what's happening? After they kind of go through all of that together, with a dead body, in the, like, just so wild. But he turns to her and in confidence tells her that I essentially am not in madness, but mad in craft. So this mad in craft actually points to the kind of origin of Hamlet. Hamlet is actually based off of a Scandinavian legend called, wait for it, Amleth. Like, find another name, you know? Anyway, as with all legends and myths, there's many different iterations. However, the one that I read is a bit wild, honestly. Amleth, the structure of the play is pulled. Like, Shakespeare pulled the structure of it. Like, the brother kills the king, who is his brother, marries the wife. There is this, like a prototype of Ophelia. The killing of Polonius is also seen in, it's not named Polonius, but we see so many threads that Shakespeare pulled out of this legend. But one thing we didn't pull was Amleth as a character. He is wild. So the main thread is that Amleth feigns madness to plot his revenge. He feigns madness for a year to plot revenge against the king or his uncle. He even uses, I think, dead bodies propped up to scare away. It's wild. There's two wives and it's a lot. But the main kind of correlation between Amleth and Hamlet is this feigning of madness. Both of them are using it to mask their revenge, and they're masking their plot and their movement towards revenge for their father's death. So I wanted to look at text, in particular when Hamlet is very much feigning madness. I originally wanted to look at the text with him and Polonius, and then I also looked at the nunnery scene with Ophelia, and in both instances he is speaking in prose, meaning just regular words, there is no poetry. So there's nothing for me to scan. So I found that quite odd, especially with Ophelia, because he's launching right off of To Be or Not to Be. And that speech is very obviously in verse, it's poetry. But when he's speaking with Ophelia, it is, for the most part, all in prose. So I do have a question of how does Hamlet use prose throughout the whole play? And does that point to when he is feigning madness?
It has made me mad.
Or is it when he is his most vulnerable, grounded? Who knows? The final thing I want to look at is Ophelia as a foil to Hamlet. So we see Hamlet being mad, blah blah blah. And there is a point where actually Claudius questions his madness, and he actually questions if he's putting it on. But we're gonna not talk about that right now. But comparing Ophelia and Hamlet, and the scene with her and Laertes is...
I cannot choose but weep. To think they would lay him in the gold crown.
heartbreaking. I want to like cry thinking about it, but it's like, it is so heartbreaking that she is in such a place of grief and loss that she can't even recognize her next kin after losing her father. And, you know, as she stands there and hands him, you know, all these weeds that she finds, it's heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking. And, you know, we then compare it to Hamlet's actions, and we see the difference, right? We see, like, we see the difference between Ophelia and we see the difference between Hamlet. And yeah, it's just heartbreaking. So we're coming to the end and we ask ourselves, is Hamlet mad? And I think in the beginning he starts from a really dark and sad place. He just lost his father and is dealing with a lot of grief to begin with. And while his intention is to feign madness and to be mad in craft, that is his intention, we see that it all kind of slips through his fingers, which is what we as the audience are so heartbroken by. We are on his side. We want him to, we're not like rooting for someone to die, but we kind of are, right? We're looking for justice, just like Hamlet is. And we hope for justice and we hope for the truth to be revealed. And that's what we're rooting for. And we see that in this antic disposition, this madness in craft, we see the tragedy unfold before our eyes. There was never a revelation of the ghost's truth. And that is, I believe, the true tragedy. So while he is not mad, there is a loss of self. There is a spiral. And that is what we as the audience are really heartbroken by at the end. Because in the end, yes, he enacts his revenge, but I don't think it's in how he wanted it to play out. And it's not how we had hoped we would see. Well, that's all I've got for you. If you like this video, please give the kitten in the corner some scritches and subscribe. We basically sit around and nerd out about Shakespeare. Thanks so much and see you very soon.